Ladies and gentlemen, in the days following the Unite the Kingdom rally, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, once again issued a strong and revealing statement. He described the event as filled with appalling Islamophobic incidents, accused the organizers of coming to the capital to spread anti-Muslim hatred and division, and expressed disappointment that the Prime Minister had not condemned it more forcefully. Mr. Khan also made it clear that what occurred was racist, anti-Muslim and Islamophobic.
More than 2 days now since they made comments that are clearly racist, anti-Muslim and Islamophobic. There's been still no firm condemnation from the Prime Minister or anybody else in a senior position in government. I'm unclear why they're unwilling to call out what are clearly Islamophobic, anti-Muslim and racist tropes. I'd be the first person to call out tropes that are anti-Semitic. So would the Prime Minister, I'd hope. Why is he so nervous? Why is he so concerned? Why is he so weak to call these out? Appreciate that there are many tropes that exist that are anti-Semitic. Many of us know those so-called conspiracies. There may be tropes that exist, I know there are, in relation to those from the LGBTQ plus community and women as well that are clearly misogynistic. There are also tropes that exist about Muslims, the fact that Muslims are taking over London, the Islamification of the UK, sleeper cells, Londonistan is a common trope used. And they are tropes, we know about those tropes, but also we know the context. In the last 4 months, there's been a massive increase in anti-Semitism. We stand in allyship and shoulder to shoulder with those Jewish people across the country, but there's also been a massive increase in Islamophobia and anti-Muslim crimes.
Look closely at the very images that Mr. Khan is condemning. Tens of thousands of ordinary British people, fathers, mothers, grandparents and working men and women gathered peacefully, waving the Union flag high. On stage, we witnessed a powerful symbolic moment. Women removing their niqabs, affirming their desire to choose a free way of life, and their wish to integrate more deeply into the shared values of the society they call home. If you value honest, unflinching analysis that refuses to echo the comfortable narratives of the political elite, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Independent voices like this need your support.
As the far right attempts to sow hatred, fear and division, I know many Londoners will be feeling scared.
Mr. Khan calls this hatred, but to millions of decent Britons, this is the voice of reason and freedom. When our leaders respond only by repeating the word Islamophobic instead of listening to the legitimate concerns of their own people, they are not protecting social cohesion. They are deepening the fractures in our society. My friends, this is not merely a political disagreement. It is a symptom of a deeper refusal, a refusal by significant parts of our political class, particularly under the current Labour government led by Keir Starmer, to acknowledge what millions of British people see plainly with their own eyes every single day. London, once recognisable as the heart of a great island nation, has experienced profound cultural and social shifts that leave many of its long-standing residents feeling like strangers in their own capital.
We see something across the globe. We see the forces of division and darkness pitting communities against each other, trying to cower us and scare us to be less Muslim, to be less Islamic, to make us scared, to put our head above the parapet. But we've shown during this month of Ramadan the power of being a Muslim. We have tonight, by the way, not just the biggest iftar taking place in London, not just the biggest iftar in Europe, not just the biggest iftar in the continent of Europe, but the biggest iftar in Western world.
And let me be clear from the outset, this is not about religion, this is about the political agenda that surrounds it. The people who gathered in London were not attacking anyone's personal faith. They were protesting against the political exploitation of religion, an agenda that demands one-sided privileges, accelerates rapid demographic change, and slowly erodes the British way of life and national identity that has existed for centuries. Yet one must ask, where is the mutuality? Where is the respect shown to the historical heritage and shared traditions that built modern Britain? For far too long-established British communities have been expected to accommodate, to adapt, and to remain silent, while their legitimate concerns about the speed and scale of change are dismissed as bigotry or worse. Once again, this is not about religion, but about politics. When a faith is weaponized as a political force to reshape the nation, to alter its laws, customs, and the future of our children, then the British people have not only the right but the duty to speak out without being branded far-right or Islamophobic. They are not asking for supremacy. They are asking for reciprocity, for the same concern to be shown to their fears and traditions as is shown to the fears of every other community. Let us speak plainly and honestly about Sadiq Khan. He has held the office of Mayor of London since 2016. Over these years, many long-time Londoners say they no longer recognise the city they grew up in. Knife crime has remained stubbornly high in certain areas. Grooming gang scandals were allowed to continue for years due to institutional failures, systemic neglect, and a restrictive culture of political correctness. Large parts of the capital now feel as though they operate under parallel legal and cultural norms. Yet Mr. Khan's consistent response to criticism is almost always the same. Label it as hatred, call for greater censorship of what he calls disinformation, and position himself and his community as perpetual victims who need protecting from the British public. This is classic politics of deflection and victimhood. Instead of honestly addressing the failures of integration policy, the immense strain placed on housing, the National Health Service, schools and policing by record levels of migration, the Labour establishment, from Prime Minister Keir Starmer down to Mayor Sadiq Khan, chooses to double down on the narrative that the real danger comes from ordinary British citizens who dare to notice these changes. Starmer's own preemptive statements before and after the rally were particularly telling. He spoke of a battle for the soul of this country and accused the organisers of peddling hatred and division even before the march had fully taken place. This kind of prejudgment reveals a deep unwillingness to engage in open democratic debate. It suggests a government more interested in managing public perception and protecting its multicultural ideology than in listening to the genuine anxieties of working class and middle class communities across Britain. The Labour Party under Starmer has shown a consistent and disturbing pattern since taking power. They speak passionately about diversity and inclusion, yet they appear remarkably indifferent to the real costs of their policies. Costs borne disproportionately by traditional working class communities, pressure on public services, changes to the character of neighbourhoods, and a growing sense that British culture itself is being sidelined. They lecture the nation about tolerance, while in practice, tolerating forms of intolerance, whether it is the legacy of grooming scandals, the emergence of no-go areas, or the repeated importation of foreign conflicts onto British streets. Two-tier policing is no longer just an accusation from critics. It has become a visible and increasingly undeniable reality. Peaceful rallies waving the Union flag are branded as extremist threats, while other demonstrations featuring more inflammatory rhetoric often receive a noticeably softer response. I have spent many years studying these trends not only in Britain but across Western Europe. What we are witnessing is the entirely predictable consequence of a model of multiculturalism that was never truly reciprocal. It demanded endless patience, accommodation, and cultural self-effacement from long-established communities, while placing very few firm expectations, such as full integration, acceptance of core British values, and respect for the rule of law on those arriving in large numbers. The result, as we see today, is social fragmentation, rising resentment, and the emergence of movements like the Unite the Kingdom rally. The people who gathered in London, estimated by police and observers at around 50,000 to 60,000, were not a mob of extremists. They were ordinary citizens, fathers and mothers worried about their children's future, grandparents who remember a very different Britain, working people who feel their country is slipping away from them, their voices ignored for too long, and their children's inheritance placed at risk. To dismiss hundreds of thousands of such people so casually, as both Khan and Starmer have done, is not responsible statesmanship. It is political malpractice of the highest order. It fuels the very divisions that these leaders claim to oppose. It tells millions of decent patriotic Britons that their love of country, their desire for safe streets, cultural continuity, and a nation that still feels like home, is now considered somehow shameful or illegitimate. History offers us clear warnings about where this path of denial and suppression ultimately leads. Deeper social alienation, the erosion of trust between government and governed, and if left unchecked, the potential for far greater conflict in the years ahead. Britain has faced immense challenges before: 2 world wars, the loss of empire, periods of severe economic upheaval. Through all of them, the British people have demonstrated remarkable resilience, common sense, and quiet determination. What we need in this moment is not more empty slogans about diversity, not more accusations of phobia, and certainly not more attempts to shut down debate. What we need is the intellectual honesty and political courage to ask the difficult but necessary questions. Can a nation successfully preserve its distinct identity, cohesion, and way of life when its population is transformed at such unprecedented speed and scale? Has the particular form of multiculturalism practiced in Britain over recent decades truly delivered the harmonious, integrated society that its advocates promised? Or have we, in our generosity and our understandable desire not to be labelled intolerant, inadvertently sown the seeds of future difficulties? These are not hateful or extreme questions. They are the questions any responsible leader should be willing to confront. And they deserve honest answers, not smears, not censorship, not the politics of denial and victimhood that currently dominate under the Labour government. The rally in London was, in many respects, a heartfelt cry from a people who feel they have been unheard and unrepresented for far too long. To label them collectively as far right is not only unjust, it is deeply counterproductive. It deepens the divisions our leaders profess to heal. The time has come for Britain to move beyond the failed politics of denial and engineered victimhood. Britain does not belong to any single political ideology or interest group. It belongs to the British people, to everyone who respects its historical heritage, upholds its core values, and works to sustain it for future generations. Recognizing this fundamental truth is not extremism, it is the beginning of national wisdom and renewal. If you found this reflection valuable and believe this kind of calm, reasoned examination is needed more than ever, please subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share it with others who still care deeply about Britain's future. Your support truly matters. Thank you for listening. God bless Britain. And God bless you all.